Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Oh, yes, don't let that be.
Good afternoon and welcome to a City Planning Commission review session. Today is Monday, November 3rd, 2014, and a quorum is present. First item on the agenda is a proposed special permit to facilitate a commercial use and modify yard requirements for property located within the special Coney Island mixed-use district. And our presenter is Corinza from the Brooklyn office. This is item number 1.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today I'll be presenting an application on behalf of SO Development Enterprises for a special permit pursuant to Section 10632A and C of this Coney Island Mixed-Use District. This will facilitate the development of a commercial warehouse at 2702 West 15th Street in Coney Island, Community District 13 in Brooklyn. The proposed warehouse will contain approximately 35,000 square feet of commercial space and will be used for storage of goods for retail, online, and catalog sales. The special permit will allow for the commercial use as well as modifications to the special district's yard requirements. The surrounding area of the project site is characterized by a mix of light industrial, commercial, and residential developments. The entire area is located in the special Coney Island mixed-use district, which is bounded by Coney Island Creek to the north, Neptune Avenue to the south, Cropsey Avenue to the west, and Stillwell Avenue to the east. Predating MX districts, the special Coney Island mixed-use district is an M12 district that contains provisions to stabilize residential uses in conjunction with allowing for modest growth of commercial and manufacturing uses. These uses are specified by certain streets. For example, residential developments are not allowed on Cropsey Avenue or areas of Stillwell Avenue, and commercial uses are only allowed on Neptune, Cropsey, and Stillwell Avenue. The surrounding area is predominantly 2 to 3-story row houses and 1 to 2-story light industrial and auto repair structures. Neptune, Cropsey, and Stillwell Avenues are dominated by 1-story auto repair and maintenance facilities, and there are a number of big box stores, including a Pathmark and Home Depot, directly across Coney Island Creek. Major thoroughfares include the Belt Parkway, which is located to the south north, and is accessible by Cropsey Avenue here, as well as Neptune Avenue to the south. The Stillwell Avenue subway station is located approximately half a mile from the subject site, and the area is also served by 5 bus lines within half a mile. The proposed development is located at 2702 West 15th Street, which is between Neptune Avenue to the south and Coney Island Creek to the north. The triangular site consists of lots 53 and 59 and has a lot area of approximately 12,000 square feet with 147 feet of frontage on West 15th Street. Lot 53 is currently being used for open vehicle storage, and Lot 59 is vacant. The property to the north contains a 3-story residential building. The lots to the west contain open vehicle storage and a 2-story row house, and the lot to the south contains a small food processing and wholesale facility. The proposed development is a 3-story commercial warehouse with 35,000 square feet of storage, office, and cellar space, and includes 2 off-street parking spaces and 1 off-street loading berth. The building will have 1.99 FAR with approximately 24,000 square feet of floor area. The first floor will have approximately 11,000 square feet of floor area and will be used for storage and an office. And the second and third floors will have 6,200 square feet for open storage space. The building height is above the flood-resistant construction elevation, which is 5 feet above curve, is 45 feet. The building is in flood zone A and will comply with Appendix G of the Building Code for flood-resistant construction. The applicant, SO Development Enterprises, specializes in Russian wares for retail, catalog, and online sales. The current warehouse is located in East New York. However, the applicant is seeking to expand their storage capacity as well as relocate to be in closer proximity to their 6 employees and retail outlets in Coney Island and Brighton Beach. Due to the special district regulations, a special permit is required to allow any development on this site. In order to facilitate the development of this warehouse, the applicant seeks to waive 2 sections of the special district. The first is Section 10631, Special Provisions for As-of-Right New Buildings for Use Group M or Commercial Use. This states the requirements for as-of-right development, including specifications for maximum lot frontage, maximum lot area, and location of certain uses. The proposed development exceeds the frontage and lot area maximums and is not located on a street specified for commercial use. The second section is Section 106-34, Special Yard Requirements, which require 15 feet of open area if the lot containing a manufacturing or commercial use abuts the side or rear lot line of a lot containing residential uses. The proposed development does not provide the entire 15 feet of open area, as is required, and this is to create a more efficient floor plate. So, this is the area required to be an open area, but will no longer be. It will be to accommodate the open storage here. In the special district, Section 106-32, Special Permit for Manufacturing Commercial Uses, provides provisions to allow for uses that are not permitted, as well as yard-required modifications. Pursuant to this section, the applicant is seeking a special permit to allow for the commercial use and to allow for modification to the yard requirements. In order for a special permit to be granted, the following findings must be made. 1, that the use will comply with M1 performance standards, and 2, that additional truck traffic generated by the use or yard mod will not create congested, dangerous conditions. The proposed warehouse is a small facility that will comply with the performance standards, and the additional truck traffic generated by the warehouse is minimal. One 26-foot panel truck will make 1 delivery per week, and 1 courier pickup truck will be used once in the morning and once in the evening. Further details can be found in the statement of findings included in your briefing package. Overall, the proposed development is consistent with the goals of the Special Coney Island Mixed-Use District and will provide an active use on the underutilized site. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Carenza? Any questions? I'll go to my left and then to my right. Commissioner Efron and then Commissioner Levin.
Great. I just want to note that the furniture is falling apart, that the windows are a good addition. It's quite nice to see a warehouse facility that has included windows on the street side, and it seems like it'll be a great improvement to the neighborhood. So
Definitely.
that is a very good sign. It looks as if the loading bay is deeper in your picture than in ours, which answered my other question. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but which is how could such a small elevator at the far end service the entire building? But that's outside of our jurisdiction. Just led me to wonder if they were planning for some future use other than warehousing.
Not to my knowledge, no. I can look into it.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes, I have a question about basically the text for the special district here. One is that it requires a yard, which we're being asked to waive, but in the provisions for the special permit, for the waiver, there don't seem to be any standard. It just says we can waive them, but the findings, there are no findings that relate to the conditions surrounding the yard. So from a planning perspective, what should we be thinking about whether this waiver makes sense or
Right.
not?
That's a
And
good-
then, as the bigger question is, why is it that the special district wants to concentrate commercial uses on the avenues and not on sites like this? And so why is this site, from a planning perspective, appropriate?
To answer the latter question first, the streets that it does specify the commercial and manufacturing use are wider streets that actually provide north and south traffic flow. This is one way, and so are some of the other streets in the district that are not as of right commercial uses. And to answer the second one, the lots actually that abut the property line here, they are quite deep as far as the rear yards, so it's not encroaching on their space.
Okay, so are those unusually deep yards?
For this area, yes.
Okay, so that may explain why this could be an exception to the
Yeah.
yard rule. Okay. So was the idea in the zoning that we wanted to assemble or protect areas that were big enough for residential use eventually, so that, you kind of put a little box around commercial?
I'm not entirely sure about the original intent in that regard.
Commissioner De La Hoz.
I guess
Did you want to add to that? I'm sorry. Did you want?
Sorry,
Yeah.
just a brief comment. Carenza mentioned in the beginning of the presentation that
this special district was established prior to the MX regulations and was really one of the first attempts in the zoning resolution to cope with these neighborhoods that historically have a mix of residential and industrial uses. And the idea, as far as I understand, was to somehow maintain a balance between those two things. Clearly, in future policy in that direction, the zoning resolution has developed more elaborate standards for coping with these kinds of combinations of uses. So this, in some ways, is a little bit of a relic maybe in the zoning resolution.
I'm sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
That's actually really helpful, because my question was kind of along those lines about more of the history of this particular mixed-use district, and whether or not there are other examples within the district of the requirements being waived, just to get a sense of how often this has come up since it's been in place.
That's a very good question. There has been no development in this area. So.
Other,
And balancing it beautifully.
Yeah, exactly.
other questions? Cheryl?
The application did make or you were right, made reference to that they, even if it were another user, it was unlikely there would be additional truck traffic. Is there any enforcement mechanism in that regard?
I know that this application goes to DOT, but I do not know.
Other questions? Thank you. This is certified.
Thanks, Corinza. Let's now move to item number 2, page 18, proposed zoning text amendment to the special Sheepshead Bay District, Area B, to facilitate the continued use of a gourmet food store. This is item number 2, page 18, proposed zoning text amendment, and our presenter is Richard.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chairman, Commissioners. This is a private application for a zoning text amendment to the Special Sheepshead Bay District, amending ZR 94-061 to permit a use group 6A food store in Area B of the Special District without a limitation on size and street frontage. Text amendment would facilitate the continued use and legalization of the Cherry Hill Gourmet Food Store and Restaurant. In addition, the text amendment would allow for some technical corrections to language in the section, clarify permitted uses in areas A through H. Project area consists of Area B of the Special District. Here, the entire Special District is 20 blocks with 8 sub-areas, areas A through H, generally bounded by Mass Street on the east and Sheepshead Bay Road on the west. The Special District, again, has 8 sub-areas with regulations governing development and permitted uses for each area. Area B is bounded by, is one rectangular block with one zoning lot, bounded by Shore Parkway, the Bell Parkway Service Road on the north, Ocean Avenue to the east, and then to the south, East 19th Street through the west. Again, this one zoning lot includes a development site, Cherry Hill Gourmet Market, a retail use located on that block and zoning lot within the landmark former Lundy's restaurant building located at 1901 Emmons Avenue, in an R5C22 zoning district. In 1973, the City Planning Commission established the Special Sheepshead Bay District. In general, the Special District sought to promote this waterfront area for water-related commercial and recreational development, appropriate housing development, open space improvements, and enhanced vehicular and pedestrian circulation throughout the district. Area B was, to a large extent, in recognition of the former thriving large restaurant located on the site. The use regulations of the area permit a restaurant of unlimited size and frontage, but restrict a select list of retail uses to a size limitation, 3,500 square feet, and a frontage maximum, 35 feet, with food stores not a permitted use. Historically, the original Lundy's restaurant opened in 1934. Until its closing some 44 years later, in 1978, Lundy's was a borough seafood favorite, which in its prime served approximately 10,000 meals on a Sunday, 15,000 meals on a Mother's Day, and some 2,500 on a typical weekday. Very large restaurant. In 1992, 14 years after the restaurant closed, the Spanish colonial revival-style building was designated as a New York City landmark. A smaller 700-seat version of the restaurant reopened in 1995, but later closed in 2004 after several unprofitable years. So with the landmarking of the building and the failure to sustain such a large restaurant, the special district regulations lessened the range of possible uses. Currently, the building is known as the Lundy Landing Shopping Center, housing the applicant, Cherry Hill Gourmet, 2 other restaurants, offices, and some vacant commercial space. Cherry Hill opened in 2008 as a food store and a restaurant. The current application proposes changes to the special district to allow the primary use, the food store, to become a conforming use. The Department of Buildings is aware of the current non-conforming food store use, having issued and settled most prior violations. The remedy to cure the remaining use violation is to obtain a legal certificate of occupancy. Just generally, land uses in the area are predominantly commercial, also includes 10 recreational piers in Sheepshead Bay that are operated by the Department of Parks and Recreation. Again, the project site is entirely occupied by commercial use. Project site is in the coastal zone and within the FEMA preliminary flood insurance map area for the 100-year flood zone right off of Sheepshead Bay. The applicant has raised vital mechanical systems as a precautionary measure in the event of a new severe storm. The zoning surrounding the area is a variety of districts. The site, again, is R5C22 within Area B of the special district. Again, the 20-block special district has 8 sub-areas, each with its own use and development regulations, while permitting a restaurant of limited size does not permit a food store in Area B. Just by contrast, R5C22 districts that are mapped throughout the city and not subject to the special regulations permit all retail uses, including food stores of unlimited size and frontage, to a maximum of 1.1 FAR in R5C22. The development site itself is, again, an entire block, some 43,450 square feet of lot area. The applicant has 86 feet of frontage on Williams Avenue, 104 feet along Ocean Avenue, 190 feet to the rear. The building is 2 to 3 stories, maximum height of 42 feet. There's some 50,636 square feet of floor area in the building. It's overbuilt at 1.16 FAR. The applicant has just over 20,000 square feet of floor area, some 14,000 on the ground floor, another 6,400 on the second floor, including seating for approximately 50 restaurant guests. In warmer months, the store operates a restaurant waiter service with 100 outdoor seats, both on Ocean Avenue and Emmons. And they have some 1,200 feet of cellar space for refrigeration and bathrooms. There also is an unenclosed parking lot, 41 cars, with a curb cut 27 feet on Ocean Avenue, another 20 feet on East 19th Street. So the action to facilitate the project, proposed the amendment to ZR 94061, modifying permitted uses in Area B of the special district to allow a use group 6A food store with no limitation on floor area or frontage per establishment. Again, there are some minor technical corrections to the section regarding permitted uses. Proposed text amendment would facilitate the continued use of the existing food store and restaurant. Proposed change would make the existing food store portion of the establishment conforming. And other than legalizing the existing condition, there are no plans for proposed enlargement or any new development. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Richard. Questions? Commissioner Dweck.
Richard, thank you. So aside from the current site, the Lundy site, what other sites in that area would be affected by this text change that could potentially be converted to, I guess, large supermarkets that are not currently?
There would be no other sites.
No.
Because Area B is only one block, one zoning lot. The zoning lot being the site of the Lundy's building. So it only would apply to Area B.
So that would make it conforming and would be done.
Correct.
Thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Levin.
Richard, when this was converted to the grocery store in 2008, is there a history with Department of Buildings here? They must have done some renovations to the building to make it suitable for the grocery store. Was that
Yes.
pursuant to a building permit?
There were permits that were applications filed for a certain amount of work. There were several violations that were issued. were fines imposed. Those fines have been settled. However, the use violation is still outstanding and can only be cured with zoning that permits a conforming use.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm asking, since we have a Manhattan application before us where DOB permitted some work and then later decided that they were wrong. And the applicant is now before us trying to remedy that. And I'm wondering if this is a similar situation where DOB allowed this to be converted to a grocery store without realizing that a grocery store wasn't allowed at that location.
I'd have to have, ultimately, the applicant would have to speak to that. There will be a public hearing ultimately.
Of course, yeah, I'm sure we'll hear more during the public review.
Just know there were a series of violations, and this is the one that's outstanding.
Okay. Sounds like a good cure. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, this matter will be referred for 60 days to both the community board and the borough president.
Thanks, Richard. Let's now move to item number 3, page 33. It's a Brooklyn post-referral application with respect to a proposed authorization concerning height modifications to facilitate over 50 affordable residential units of housing for the elderly. Once again, this is a post-referral. We're on item number 3, page 33, Cypress Hills Senior Housing.
Good afternoon. This item is a post-referral item. The New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development is seeking an authorization pursuant to Section 23-631 of the zoning resolution to allow increased perimeter wall and building height to facilitate the development of a 5-story residential building with approximately 53 rental units of housing for the elderly, funded through Section 202 Supportive Housing Program for the Elderly. The project area is comprised of lots 20 and 21 of Block 3487 within the Cypress Hills, East New York neighborhood of Brooklyn's Coney District 5. The project site has frontage on Jamaica Avenue and Sunnyside Avenue between Miller Avenue and Vermont Street, and has a lot area of approximately 41,608 square feet. In 2012, HPD requested that this lot be subdivided, creating a new lot, Lot 21, and transferred to their jurisdiction from the Department of Environmental Protection, which formerly controlled the entire site. The remainder of the site will remain under DEP jurisdiction and houses a small pumping station, which pumps water through the local water supply. In addition, the unused development rights of Lot 20 were transferred to Lot 21 to facilitate this senior housing project. Lot 21, the proposed development site, will be completely inaccessible from Lot 20 due to a chain link fence constructed post-development. The development site is approximately 27,000 square feet and is currently occupied by a vacant building, which will be demolished prior to construction. The site is in an R4 residential district. The blocks surrounding the project area are predominantly residential, consisting of mostly 1- and 2-family, 2-story homes, as well as some small apartment buildings, all within an R4 and R31 district. There are some commercial uses along Jamaica Avenue as well as on Fulton Street to the south of this area, and the JZ train runs along Fulton Street. The proposed development will consist of a new 5-story elevator building, which will provide 53 one-bedroom units of rental housing for the elderly. This will be for elderly households that earn up to 60% of area median income, as well as a unit for the superintendent. The topography of the site area, the project area, rises 22 feet from Jamaica Avenue to Sunnyside Avenue, with the most level existing grade towards Jamaica Avenue. The zoning resolution allows for slight increase of floor area rights for the development of senior housing for the elderly up to 1.29 FAR. Which allows for a total of just over 53,000 square feet of floor area for this development. However, due to the topography of this site, it's challenging to accommodate this floor area without quite expensive excavation. of the site. Therefore, the applicant has proposed to locate the housing development closest to Jamaica Avenue, where there's the most level existing grade, and has proposed a bulk envelope which slightly exceeds the as-of-right permitted bulk envelope. This diagram demonstrates the as-of-right envelope and then the proposed building envelope for this senior housing development. The applicant seeks authorization for a new perimeter wall and building height, which penetrates the maximum perimeter wall height and maximum building height. To maintain the proposed number of dwelling units for this development, the building is stacked to 5 stories, with the 5th floor exceeding the maximum building height and maximum perimeter wall height limitations of 35 feet and 25 feet, respectively, for an R4 district. The street wall height on Jamaica Avenue will be approximately 24 feet, which complies with the zoning regulations. The street wall height on Sunnyside Avenue will be approximately 42 feet above the curb height, and the total building height will be approximately 60 feet above the adjusted base plane. The exterior architecture will be contextual and will harmonize with the surrounding buildings. And actually from Sunnyside Avenue, only about 3 stories of the building will be visible from the street. The final proposed floor area for this development is 47,000 square feet, which is well below the maximum allowed in this district. HPD has also requested a zoning override for parking requirements on this site, which has been approved by the mayor's office. 10 parking spaces will be provided on site, just below the 19 required per zoning. The mayor's office has also approved a zoning override of the open space requirements for a slight reduction in the open space provided on site. Over 15,000 square feet of open space will be provided on site, which will include shaded seating areas, plantings, and shaded game areas on the side and rear yard of the building, as well as on outdoor terraces. This project has received City Council and mayoral approval under the accelerated UDAP process, which will authorize the site disposition. Community Board 5 has reviewed this application and voted to recommend approval of this authorization.
Corn, do you want to address what might be some concerns about the juxtaposition of a DEP site adjacent to this site?
Sure. So I'm not sure. You can see on this area map that the DEP pumping station is actually just a very small structure on the adjacent lot. From reports from the applicant and developer, they've visited the site. There's really no noise or other nuisances from this DEP pumping station. It's very quiet and I think receives, visits from DEP on a very sporadic basis just to check on the maintenance of the structure. So there's no anticipated conflict in terms of the use as a residential use and then the adjacent pumping station.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Cantor.
Did I hear you reference the lot line between the 2 parcels will have a chain link fence?
Yes. So it will be inaccessible. The DEP station and the entire DEP-owned lot will be completely inaccessible from the housing development.
Is the area between the fence and the house one that is, between the fence and the proposed new house, one that the occupants might want to be sitting at?
So there will be a small amount of open space on that side of the building, but they've actually located the building quite close to that lot line to reduce the building's proximity to adjacent buildings on the other side.
Sorry, say that again, please.
So this is actually the lot line here. So the building's actually located more towards the east of the lot, closer to the DEP lot to provide for a driveway to the parking on the west side.
Once again, will it be sitting areas?
There's a small seating area towards the front there, but it's not really, most of the open space is not provided along that wall.
The reason for these questions is, could they have come up with something a bit more attractive than a chain link fence?
I believe there will be plantings along that fence that will be vegetated. It'll be a vegetated screen along there. So they are trying to minimize that visual impact.
Other questions? Commissioner Levin?
Corin, just following up on that, I know that in some neighborhoods, perhaps more intensely occupied neighborhoods, there's often a push to have facilities like this used as neighborhood open space, because the reality is the DEP doesn't really have to get in there very often. So following up on Commissioner Cantor's question, and DEP never likes that idea because they want to retain control of it, and I don't know that this is a neighborhood where that would be appropriate, but I would ask whether the space could at least be minimally landscaped so that it's visually attractive, and whether it would have a nice-looking fence on the Jamaica Avenue side so it doesn't look like an abandoned lot. I'm talking about the DEP
I
portion
understand,
here.
yes.
So it doesn't look like an abandoned lot.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, and if I will mention that to the applicant in case they're still in contact with DEP about the use of this site. 'Cause that
And
would-
then, if I may, I just have a procedural question. I guess I hadn't ever come across the provision of state law that allows an accelerated passage through our process for...
Accelerated UDAP?
Yes, the accelerated UDAP. I guess we don't see it because
I
it
think
gets
usually they
accelerated, right?
bypass the city council. I forget
So I
what,
guess my question is, so because, so I went and looked up the law, and it looks like it allows accelerated passage through, that allows the council to waive any standards and procedures required by local law. So why not this one? Why
because
did they
this
have
is
to
an
come up with this?
authorization, I'm not sure what the protocol is around which types of, actions they will
Yeah.
use this
It's
accelerated
just procedurally
UDAP.
interesting to know, because I guess they didn't have to do UDAP, they didn't have to do a disposition ULURP, they didn't have to do project approval, or at least it got done at the council level.
Right.
Not here, so why is just the authorization left over?
I'm not sure
technical
from
question.
a procedural standpoint. I think we do have some standards around usually the number of units in a development that gets accelerated. But we can find out more about that.
Okay.
I think up to 4 units of housing that HBD is developing as UDAP gets exempted from coming to the commission. So there are many instances.
Six projects a year for up to 90 units for the elderly or disabled.
Right, this is a relatively, I think, new legislation, but in the past, there have certainly been many applications that have not gone through
Right.
UDAP designation through the commission. They go straight to the city
Right,
council.
which is why we never see them.
Exactly.
Any other questions? Commissioner Besser?
Thank you.
Hold on.
What size are the one-bedroom rental units?
That is a good question. I don't know the exact square footage of each unit. They will all be one bedrooms, but I'm not sure.
Okay, if you could just,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can find out.
Commissioner Marin?
Ryan, question. It appears from the front facade drawing that the applicant is intending on installing a fence that then goes to the edge of the property of lot 20, which covers the DEP portion of the lot. Is that correct?
Here,
Yes.
it does go that way.
So the applicant is intending on, we'll call it beautifying the front face of DEP.
It looks that way. I'm not sure, if this is, I can check on the, how these plans are, what their current thinking is.
Because the drawing on page 53, 8.050 actually shows new curb cuts, new trees in front of what is that little building, which is the pumping station.
Yes. Yes, it does look like they will be installing a fence. Which would be an improvement.
Any other questions? Okay, this is scheduled for a vote. We don't know precisely when, but between now and then, can you get back to the commission with answers to the questions proposed today?
Just one follow-up.
Commissioner Marin, yes?
Follow-up. And if that is the case, is the applicant paying for this or is DEP contributing to this? How is that going to be worked out?
We'll find out.
Other questions? Commissioner De La Hoz.
Are we expecting to hear from the borough president on this as well, or not so much?
No.
No, it's a referral to the community
Okay,
board.
just checking.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Corin. Let's now move to item number 4, page 60, proposed authorization to facilitate JLWQA space within property located in the Soho Cast Iron Historic District along Spring Street. Our presenter is Edwin. This is item number 4, page 60.
This is unusual.
Very, it's like, we're switching.
Yes. That's
Nice
unusual.
to know. I looked up what shoddy is.
Shoddy?
Did you see? Anyone know what shoddy is? It's in use group 17. It's the stuff that comes off of wool that you then put together to make a felt-like substance.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chairman. Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Sir?
The applicant seeks the grant of an authorization pursuant to Section 42-142 of the zoning resolution to allow conversion of the cellar and first floor from Use Group 6 retail use to joint living work quarter for artist space within an existing building located at 106 to 112 Spring Street. The subject property is located within a Soho Cast Iron Historic District within Manhattan Community District 2. 106 to 112 Spring Street is located at the southwest corner of Spring and Mercer Streets. This is a photograph of the existing built condition. The subject property comprises a zoning lot with 2 tax lots with 2 buildings on it that has 70 feet of frontage along Spring Street and 120 feet of frontage along Mercer Street. In total, the zoning lot has a little more than 10,000 square feet of lot area. On tax lot 21, which is this portion right here, is developed with a 6-story loft building having 32,000 square feet of floor area. The building has 10 joint living work quarters for artist units and Use Group 6 ground floor retail space, which was facilitated through a special permit granted by the Commission in 2003. Tax lot 22, which is located right here, also, which would be right about here, is also developed with a 6-story loft-style building, which has about 27,000 square feet of floor area. This building also has ground floor and cellar Use Group 6 retail space, which was facilitated through a City Planning Commission special permit, also granted in 2003. In total, the zoning lot has 8,200 square feet of ground floor retail space, about 5,000 square feet of retail space in the cellar, and 20 joint living work quarter for artist units on their upper floors. The surrounding neighborhood, this is Soho, the Commission is familiar with this, is characterized by 5 to 12-story loft-style industrial buildings that have been converted to a mix of uses. Most of the buildings in the area contain ground floor retail uses with residential units, joint living work quarter for artist spaces, or office units above. In terms of zoning, the subject property is located within an M15A zoning district, which allows light industrial and commercial uses as of right up to 5 FAR, and community facility uses up to 6.5 FAR. Use Group 6 retail uses are not allowed below the second level of any building in an M15A district. Actually not allowed below the second level of any building that has more than 3,600 square feet of lot area. I stand corrected on that. Joint living work quarter for artist units are permitted in existing buildings erected prior to 1961 under certain conditions. However, joint living work quarter for artist units are not permitted as of right below the second level of buildings in M15A districts, and that's why the applicant is seeking the grant of this special permit.
That's what I-
So the applicant seeks the grant of the authorization under Section 42-142 to convert the ground floor space and cellar space in both buildings comprising the zoning lot from Use Group 6 retail space to joint living work quarters for artist space. There will be 3 joint living work quarters for artist units that are proposed. 2 will be placed on the ground floor of tax lot 21, and 1 unit will be placed on the ground floor of tax lot 23. These are floor plans that show the existing building condition. This is the cellar plan. The cellar plan, this is the ground floor plan. The cellar is currently used as storage space for the retail space, as well as mechanicals supporting the building. The first floor has 2 ground floor retail spaces. This is Spring Street, this is Mercer Street. Both spaces are occupied. Okay, so this is the floor plate of the building. This is tax lot 21, this is tax lot 22. On tax lot 21, there'll be 2 joint living work quarters for artist spaces placed on the ground floor. There are access from Spring Street. Also, there'll be 1 joint living work quarter for artist space that'll be accessed from Mercer Street. Again, there are 3 joint living work quarters for artist spaces proposed. The cellar space would be used for storage. No joint living work quarter for artist spaces would be placed in the cellar. There would be no other changes, physical changes proposed for the building or for the zoning lot. There would be no increase in building floor area on the zoning lot, and no new commercial, residential, or community facility spaces are proposed as part of this action. The applicant received LPC approval for the proposed conversion of the ground floor and cellar space to joint living work quarter for artist space and received a certificate of no effect. The LPC did not require any additional restorative work and believes that the proposed change in use for the ground floor and cellar spaces are consistent with its prior approvals, and that the granting of this request will contribute to a preservation purpose. Now, the commission may grant an authorization under section 42-142 to modify the applicable requirements of 42-14, provided that, 1, a non-residential building is either a landmark or lies within a historic district designated by LPC. This is within a Soho Cast Iron Historic District. An alteration to the subject building required in connection with such conversion to joint living work quarters for artists have received a certificate of appropriateness or other permit from Landmarks Preservation Commission. This project has received that documentation. And 3rd, a program has been established for continuing maintenance that will result in the preservation of the subject building as evidenced by a report from the Landmarks Preservation Commission. In granting the authorization, the City Planning Commission may find that such modification of use requirements shall have minimal adverse effects on conforming uses located within the building and the surrounding area, and the commission may prescribe appropriate additional conditions and safeguards in order to enhance the character of the subject building and to minimize adverse effects on the character of the surrounding area. And the applicant's statement of conditions and findings are included in your briefing package.
Thank you, Edwin. Questions? Commissioner Efron?
Did the LPC make any recommendations around the window treatment or future window treatment on the ground floor?
They did not, no.
And is there any, are there any provisions in nearby buildings that either this commission or Landmarks has set forward around the former, around retail windows and what security measures can go over them for residential use?
That I do not know. I can get back to the commission on that, yes.
Commissioner Cantor?
Thank you. Ed,
Yes.
I understand the business about making the street floor joint work and living, but I'm not clear on why you should be making a cellar, not a basement, but a cellar into a joint facility as well.
No, the cellar is being used for related storage space. There's no joint living work quarters for artist units placed in the cellar. But because the storage will serve the joint living work quarter for artist units, they have to come in for the authorization.
As part of the joint living and working.
That's correct, but there aren't any joint living work quarters for artist units placed in the cellar. No one will be living there.
Okay, it is a cellar, it's not a basement.
It's a cellar.
Thank you.
Questions? Commissioner Levin?
Why?
That's what I said. Why?
Is this, I mean, this is really most unusual. And I think, is this an owner-occupied building? Is it a co-op or condo?
This is a condo.
Because I know that many buildings in the area, occupants essentially live maintenance-free or even make some money off of their ground floor retail.
And that's the case with this. That's the existing.
So what's motivating this application? Why give it up?
It's a puzzle to me as well. I just don't know. Yeah, it's a very, very strange one.
You know, and it also raises for us as a planning, you know, far be it from this commission to encourage retail in Soho, but the reality is that that's what the neighborhood is. And retail does bring some activity to the streetscape that we normally like to encourage. So this one's a head scratcher.
It is very different. I mean, this portion of Spring Street, as you know, has a very strong retail character.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very different from what we've seen before.
Well, maybe the rest of the public review process will shed some light.
Art over commerce, perhaps.
Yeah.
Michelle? Commissioner De La Ruz?
And I'm just wondering, based on your experience in this area, and you present to us on all of these, so I'm sure it's quite significant. Are these units above the average size for joint live?
These units are very large.
5,295 square feet seems
These are very large
very
units.
generous.
They're very generous. I mean, the one that's facing on Mercer Street, that's about 5,000 square feet or so. And then the two that are located on Tax Top 21.
1,827.
Yeah, they're fairly large. Generally, we don't see anything near what we see in this application, so they're fairly generous.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Hi.
Thank you for the presentation. Following up on Commissioner Eckman's questions about the treatment from the windows on the ground floor, it is a concern for me, in part because I'm concerned about the pedestrian experience and for the continuity of retail. If this is a shopping district, and in fact, that's what it's intended to be, what impact will dead space effectively have on that experience? And how can we prevent that from happening? Or, I think the conditions of the windows are important.
Okay.
As you know, we've addressed issues of banks in the past.
We sure have, yes.
Ground floor retail space that, would like to be activated on these streets. So that's something that I raise a question.
Okay, we will definitely direct that to the applicant as well.
Wouldn't that be something Landmark would specifically address?
And the certificate of
It seems to me they would not
appropriateness?
allow them to change the architecture or the windows. There's nothing to stop them from putting curtains and bar
I
set up
think they would,
board.
yeah, at the,
But
at
from
the
the
least.
outboard, I don't think they could change it.
Commissioner Efron?
Equally concerning is no window treatments at all, because these will be residential spaces with direct access.
Yeah. Any other observations?
Edwin, scratch your head and try and think of how the use group can be taken advantage of with a different type of occupancy and a different type of rating after the approval is made. In other words, it's the same question, why?
Well, if this is approved, the certificate of occupancy would be amended to reflect that there are joint living work quarters for artist spaces occupied in the ground floor space. So you can't have, I overheard the commissioners talking about shoddy repair or something like that. You can't have any other use group 17 use occupying this space once this authorization is granted. The C of O would reflect that. They would be locked into having joint living work quarter for artist spaces on the ground floor.
There's no option once that's done?
Once it's done, no. They would have to come back.
So if there are dinner parties every night, then obviously that'll raise some questions as to what's going on there.
Yeah.
Other questions? Commissioner John?
So these would be condoed out as as the rest of the building is already, so they're joint live workspaces that are condos, you said, right?
That's correct, yes.
So these would also presumably be condos?
I would assume so, yes.
And so how does that work when there's a transfer? I mean, obviously, like, they need to be certified artists going in, but what's the mechanism on subsequent transfers? For sales.
That
When they
I don't
change
know.
hands.
That, I would assume that there are restrictions, but, you know, you still have to have a certified artist occupying that space.
And what's the, so when you, for example, when there's a sale, and so in order for it to be recorded, there's a check that says, you know, is this a certified artist who's purchasing the property, and
Yeah.
that's part of the recording? Okay.
And was it DCA certifies the artist?
Yeah.
Status?
It's placed right on the C of O that, you know, joint living work for artist units must be one certified artist as per DCA.
Okay. Commissioner Cantor,
Thank you. Could the artist
you have a question?
use part of the street floor as a retail store for art and use the rest for living quarters?
We think so. I mean, it's you know, joint living work quarters,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
we can clarify that.
Other questions? All right. This will be referred to the community board for 45 days, right? Not the borough president, just the community board.
Just the community board.
Okay. Thank you, Edwin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Let's now move to item number 5, page 99. This is our pre-hearing project, proposed acquisition of property and easements to facilitate stormwater drainage in the Travis neighborhood of Staten Island. This is back from Community Board and Borough President review. It's item number 5, page 99, and our presenter is Kirsty.
Good afternoon. This is an application for the acquisition of private property and the acquisition of 2 permanent easements on portions of 2 privately held properties in Travis, Staten Island. The proposed acquisition would facilitate construction of a stormwater drainage system and alleviate flooding in Travis, Staten Island. The applicants are the New York City Department of Environmental Protection and the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. The project area is located in the southwestern part of Travis. First, I'll show you where Travis is on the area map. It's here. And it's located in western Staten Island and Staten Island's Community District 2. The area is generally bounded by Victory Boulevard to the south, Meredith Woods Park and Meredith Avenue to the north, the West Shore Expressway, and vacant wetlands to the west. The project area is zoned R32 and M11. Surrounding land uses include attached and detached residences along Cannon Avenue to the south. And as you can see, there's a park called Meredith Woods here. There's an M11 zone along the West Shore Expressway, and those are the surrounding land uses. The proposed project involves the installation of new stormwater collection sewers and 2 new storm sewer outfalls. Most of the work will be in the beds of streets. I'm going to show you. First, I'll just highlight where the parcels are in the area. As you can see, here's the parcel to be acquired, and then a couple of blocks south, 2 easements across residential parcels in this area, and they're a little more clearly shown on this map. Okay. One of the outfalls will be located on Cannon Avenue. It will lead to a Bluebelt-style best management practice, or BMP system, which slows down stormwater runoff velocity and captures the sediments in the water as the water exits storm sewer pipes. The proposed BMP, shown in a rendering here, or kind of a cartoon. Yeah. What it does is there's a pipe, and then there's a pool surrounded with gravel. It's a deep pool, and then the water flows out of that pool and into a swale, a grassy swale, and so that all slows it down and makes the soil and sediment drop out. So it kind of pre-cleans it before it enters the wetland. So this site, this flag-shaped lot, is primarily privately owned land, which is proposed for acquisition by the city. The lot to be acquired, shown in greater detail here. And as you can see, it has Cannon Avenue to the south, residential to the southeast. This is the parkland, and this is a vacant wetland, and it happens to be right next door to a DEP pumping station. So it's vacant freshwater and tidal wetland with a lot area of 33,733 square feet. The portion along Cannon Avenue is zoned R32, and most of it in the back is zoned M11. In addition, the acquisition of easements on portions of 2 adjacent parcels totaling 2,700 square feet of private property is necessary to complete the proposed stormwater sewer system. Acquisition of easements over these 2 parcels, which I showed earlier, are a couple blocks south. On the land use map. They're necessary because the storm sewer pipes shown in this diagram, they're in the beds of streets, but there's a offset between the dead end of Price's Lane and the dead end of Burke Avenue, so they're traversing 2 private properties to make that connection so that the storm sewer will run from Victory Boulevard, here, and up into the BMP. So the sites are zoned R32. One is the front yard of a residence, and the other is a vacant landscape lot that's residentially zoned. The width of the proposed easement is 30 feet wide and 90 feet long across the 2 sites. And the proposed easement on Burke Avenue is 1,550 square feet in area and located in the front yard of a residence. The proposed easement on Price's Lane is approximately 1,150 square feet in area and is located in a landscaped lot. It is here, a post-referral pre-hearing. Community Board voted unanimously to approve. The BP recommended approval, and the owners of the land have been notified.
Thank you, Kirsty. This is scheduled for a public hearing a day after tomorrow. So what we can't answer today, you can propound on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Questions? Commissioner Besser.
Thank you. Who would be responsible for the cost of the ongoing maintenance to the property that, the easement, the 2
Easement?
properties that have the easement?
My understanding is the DEP, and they can explain it in greater detail on Wednesday, but they compensate the owner for the easement. They do the work, clean it up, landscape it, and after that, the owner takes care of it as part of their yard. But the DEP has the right to return and work on the pipes.
Right, in the event that there were an issue in the future, then the DEP would handle the cost of repairing it and then putting it back to its,
And I can ask DEP to answer that on Wednesday.
thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Efron.
None of our actions would be a taking of any parkland, is that correct? This is just about 2 private lots and then an easement on 2 other lots?
Correct.
Confirming. And just out of curiosity, why is that section next to the dogleg not included?
Okay. I'm not sure what you mean.
That, up to the right, I'm sorry, yeah.
Oh, yes. Let's ask DEP. I'll ask them to answer
Thank
that
you.
for you.
Commissioner Levin.
And following up on this, will this be a taking at all, or are these negotiated transactions with the individual property owners? That's also for DEP.
I did flag a similar question for DEP to answer on Wednesday. I believe it's a mutual consent real estate transaction.
Okay, and maybe that then presumes the answer to my next question is, you indicated that the property owners had been notified. Are they aware that there's a hearing for Wednesday? And if there are issues, I hope we would hear about them then.
Yes, and one owner appeared at the Community Board 2 land use hearing, and their question was basically, when and how much would I be compensated? So it seemed to be okay.
Okay, and the other two property owners are similarly aware of what's going on, and
I'm going to ask DEP to explain their notification process
Good.
to make that very
There's a
clear.
process which requires the applicant to notify the property owners, community board hearing, borough president hearing, as well as city planning
Right.
commission hearing.
no, I'm just seeking confirmation that that required notice in fact got made.
I'm sure we have it.
Thanks.
Other questions?
No, I was just going to say that my recollection of the process, which obviously we'll confirm on Wednesday, is that in these types of acquisitions, without this approval, legally, the discussion about the negotiations and discussion really cannot take place, even though there might be discussions about what the plans are. So until this is over, whether or not this becomes an agreed-upon negotiation or it becomes something they can't agree upon, and then the city needs to move using this authorization for, in another manner to take it, that's, the future will tell that, I think, yeah.
And these are wetlands. I mean, it's-
Yes,
so it's-
the parcel be acquired is wetland, the others are not wetland.
Okay, other questions? Okay, this is on for public hearing.
Thanks, Kirsty. Let's now move to votes for November 5th. Commissioners, just as an update, 37 Great Jones Street was withdrawn by the applicant. And we also have 381, actually our only vote, 381 Harold Avenue, proposed certification for a future subdivision from one zoning lot into two to facilitate two-family homes within the special South Richmond Development District.
Jackie, there's a question about the withdrawal of 37 Jones Street, Great Jones.
The landmark.
That's coming up on November 19th.
Oh, I thought you had a question about the oh, okay.
Okay, so we can touch on it. Looks like Commissioner Cantor.
Now that Great Jones Street has
Withdrawn.
are they not in illegal occupancy?
There are uses within the building that currently do not comply with zoning.
And is the building department taking steps, or will the building department take steps to force it to legalize?
We believe they will, and we certainly will follow up on that with the Department of Buildings.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
where you done?
So on November 19th, we have 695 Grand Street, which is a proposed urban development action area project to facilitate predominantly affordable housing in Community District 1 in Brooklyn. In response to some of the concerns that were raised regarding sustainability elements for the building, the sponsor, St. Nick's Alliance, submitted a letter to the commission which outlines their response to those concerns. We have the project manager here if there are any questions, but if not, staff will be preparing a favorable report for November 19th. Thank you. During Bohack House Landmark, that was in your package. We have that scheduled for vote on November 19th. Staff has not found any conflicts with the zoning resolution, projected public improvements, or plans for the area involved. In that respect, also, we'll be preparing a favorable report. And we also have the Salazzo Plaza proposal, which involved a zoning map amendment to establish a C12 commercial overlay to facilitate a commercial building along Forest Avenue in Community District 1 in Staten Island. We had a public hearing a couple weeks ago. So staff will be preparing a favorable report for that project. And that's all I have.
Entry Road, 56 Entry Road.
No, I think that's been removed from the agenda. as well as the next.
Okay. All righty. Any more business?
No, Mr. Vice Chair.
Okay. See you all Wednesday.